In the previous episode, we discussed how most adult relationships do not fail from one argument or one season of imbalance. They drift over time through subtle patterns where one person slowly becomes easier to be around by becoming less emotionally complicated, and how over time many people begin adapting themselves to preserve harmony without realizing how much of themselves they're editing in the process, and how somewhere along the way, they learn which emotions create closeness and which emotions create discomfort. So gradually, they stop bringing forward the parts of themselves that feel emotionally inconvenient, not through dishonesty, through exhaustion. And because adulthood rewards composure, many people mistake self silencing for maturity. But eventually, something starts feeling uneven because the relationship continues functioning while one person carries more and more of their inner life alone. One of the least discussed forms of emotional exhaustion is the exhaustion of being emotionally manageable all the time. Being the calm one, the understanding one, the one who knows how to let things go. Especially in adult relationships where responsibilities already consume so much energy. People begin prioritizing peace over honesty, efficiency over emotional depth, and slowly conversations stop becoming places where people reveal themselves. They become places where people maintain stability. This happens constantly in long term relationships, not because people stop caring, but because familiarity can create dangerous assumptions. We assume we already know each other, that we've talked about this before, that we know how each other feels. But being known historically is not the same as being emotionally engaged within that present. And many adults begin feeling emotionally lonely, not because nobody loves them, but because nobody is really asking who they are becoming now. That distinction matters because human beings continue changing internally throughout their lives. New fears emerge, new griefs, new insecurities, new desires. And relationships that stop making space for emotional discovery often become emotionally procedural, functional, predictable, efficient, but emotionally thin. People discuss schedules, tasks, logistics, responsibilities. Meanwhile, entire emotional realities remain untranslated, not intentionally hidden, simply never invited. And eventually, some people stop expecting to be emotionally explored at all. They become highly competent relationally while privately feeling unknown, which creates a strange contradiction. A person can become deeply appreciated in a relationship while simultaneously feeling emotionally absent from it, because appreciation is not the same thing as intimacy. And someone can absolutely appreciate you for what you do for their life without deeply engaging with who you are internally. And when that gap persists long enough, people often begin experiencing a very specific kind of fatigue, not burnout from conflict, burnout from emotional self containment, from constantly regulating their own disappointment so that the relationship can remain smooth, from repeatedly deciding this probably isn't worth bringing up, until eventually their inner world becomes something they manage privately instead of something they expect to share. That is usually the moment emotional distance becomes dangerous. Not when people fight constantly, rather when they stop reaching for each other psychologically, because emotional withdrawal rarely announces itself directly. It often arrives disguised as maturity, as independence, as not wanting to cause problems. But relationships cannot remain emotionally alive when honesty becomes selectively filtered for comfort. And this is where many adults become trapped, especially good hearted people, because they convince themselves that needing emotional depth is unreasonable, that wanting to feel emotionally pursued is excessive, that asking someone to notice them more carefully is somehow unfair because they already have so much on their plate. So they continue adapting, continue minimizing, continue becoming emotionally convenient until one day they realize they have become deeply easy to live beside and increasingly difficult to truly find inside the relationship itself. And before we close, if this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe and join us for the next conversation. And if you'd like to share, leave a comment below. Have you ever realized you were carrying more of your inner world alone than you thought? You don't have to tell your full story. A sentence, a thought, or even a single word is enough. And if you'd like to support Caffeine and Clarity beyond listening, you can leave a donation or stop by our shop and find something that speaks to you. Every donation and every purchase helps support the time, thought, and care that go into creating these conversations and keeping them available for others who may need them. And perhaps one of the biggest tragedies of adulthood is how often people confuse the absence of conflict with the presence of connection. But relationships do not become meaningful merely because they continue. They remain meaningful when both people continue making contact with each other's inner worlds instead of only managing life side by side. Here's your sip of the day. The danger of always being emotionally easy to love is that eventually people may stop noticing the parts of you that are struggling in silence. Until next time, this is Caffeine and Clarity.